And let me just connect us to the live stream. There we go. And then Debbie, I'll keep my phone up in case people have
Perfect.
questions.
Sounds good. Let me know when we're
All right. There we go. I got it now. All right.
ready.
I knew it was another little button there. Okay.
You got it? Okay, excellent.
Yeah, I think we're all set.
All righty. Okay, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I know we're a little early, but Susan is in Australia, so it's already tomorrow. But Susan Day's here on our show, and she is an author of Mindful Arts Therapy, and she has like 6 books in her collection, Susan. We did see that on Amazon. It's on Amazon. And also mindfulartstherapy.com. Susan is a mindful arts therapist and author. She is passionate about empowering people with art and mindful practices. She is also driven to help animal rescue groups and save the environment. Susan, I also like when we asked you, and welcome to Laugh Lines and Turbulence. I also love how we asked you,
Hey.
why do you want to be on our podcast? You said, I'd love to chat about how mindfulness and arts therapy can empower people's lives, my books, and the joy of finding my groove later in life. So we love that.
Thank you. Lovely to be here to meet you both.
Yeah, same here. So tell us about finding your groove.
At my age, it's a pretty big groove.
I hear you.
Yeah, I think I don't know when I filled that form out, to be honest, because I've actually since developed an art therapy app, and
Oh,
I'm working on some online courses. And I
wonderful.
think finding your groove, particularly for older women, who perhaps that children have left home, and our bodies change and all sorts of things are happening, and um, it's finding who we are again, and finding that vitality in life, and sort of rediscovering who we are. And arts therapy is it's really got some really classic, and it's really got some really interesting aspects to it, that really it bypasses traditional talk therapy, and you can use it for all sorts of situations. And for me in particular, I think empowering women as they get older. I know we don't like that phrase. As we mature, I don't know, ripen, I don't know what the word is.
Find our groove.
I think it's important that we we recognize our value and what we have to offer
Yeah.
society. Yeah, yeah.
I love that.
Mhm.
I think that, and I love that we have you on, Susan, that you're from Australia, because this really shows that this isn't just like in one place. Like women are
Mhm.
trying to find themselves global.
Globally, yep.
And yeah, that is just amazing. And I love your mission of helping women to kind of sort everything out, because it's a lot of changes we go through
Mhm.
during this time of life.
Yes.
Absolutely. It's definitely a worldwide phenomenon, where
Yes.
it doesn't matter where you are in the world now. Yeah, it's just it's quite interesting. It's also very exciting that we can connect and, work together across the globe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. This is some community that, and Gina and I had discovered after turning 50 that how huge this community is, and the support of other women after over the age of 50, all going through the same thing. So this is
Yeah.
wonderful that we just keep growing and become more and more connected with each other.
That's true, isn't it? Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
It's just lovely. And it's just um yeah, I've just like doing podcast interviews, and working with my books and my clients, and
Mhm.
it's really, I think it's really interesting. We're kind of generating this a really amazing energy across the globe. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
I love that. And it's such a positive energy too.
Mm-hmm.
women truly lifting each other up and encouraging each other during this time of life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And we
Yeah.
just have that shared experience,
Yes.
across the globe. I think it's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love how everyone we've interviewed too, and including you, all the tools that everyone has brought to the table in this community. So super excited to talk about mindfulness and the arts therapy, and so many other women we've talked to have, so many other tools that they've taught us to get through this period of life and empower us as well.
Oh yeah, and it is, art therapy, mindfulness, it's all part of your toolbox,
Mm-hmm.
isn't it? Really, I use it, but I also do Tai Chi. I love spending time in nature, taking the dog out. Yeah, for me, it's what I do, and it's what I, obviously what I'm really passionate about. But I respect a lot of other things as well, and I learn. I've been listening to your podcast, and you've had a couple of people I know on, which I'm like, oh, it's really exciting. Yeah, and I think we're kind of blessed in that way that we have so much now that we can use
Mm-hmm.
for whatever you're facing in life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, whoever you are really, but
Yes.
particularly for older women, because for us it's quite, well, it's not new, but it's a bit of a revolution. I think
Yeah.
we're not only just engaging in, but we're driving it, aren't we?
Mhm.
Really? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, behind the wheel.
And we're very good drivers, like Rain Man.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Somebody said to me the other day, does your car go fast? Because I have a red car. And she said, oh, does your car drive fast? Because it's red. I went, not when I'm behind the wheel.
Do you get pulled over more? They say also that you get pulled over more by the police if you're driving a red car.
Not at the speed I drive. Doing down the road.
Love it. So when did you kind of break into the mindfulness and the arts therapy? Did you start that after you turned 50, or was that something you started before and then started expanding?
It was about that time. I
Mhm.
yeah, I've always been interested in the spiritual side of things and
Mhm.
religion. I used to teach multi-religion classes.
Wonderful.
Um, and so that's all, and the prayer and meditation side of things. And then I started investigating, mindfulness was coming along, and I'm like, oh, what's that about? And always curious, so always, going in and deep diving and finding all about it. And then a lady, because I was an English teacher way back in the past, and a lady asked me to edit her thesis because it actually been rejected because of all the grammar mistakes.
Mhm.
And it was about arts therapy. And it was just a revelation. I thought, oh my gosh, this is a thing. You can do this. And I've always been drawing, always been painting. And looking back, I used it as a therapy. I used it as a way of just focusing down and concentrating and working with whatever I was doing and whatever I was interested in. And yeah, for me, it was at that time of my life, and my grandchildren were being born, and other things happening, and it was that time where my role in society had shifted, but I
Mhm.
didn't quite fit the structure of what a grandma or a nana
Mm.
should be. I didn't fit that role very well. I don't fit many roles very well. Um, I had a big dog training center, and I used to just wear jeans and boots all day. You know what I mean? It was just like, I
Yeah.
don't know how to knit and crochet, and I don't get the point of baking. I do get it, but it's just, you just go buy a cake and get on with something. Let's go buy a cake and do some
I love your
baking.
mindset.
By the time you buy all the ingredients and everything, you would have spent more than you did on the cake.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. I'm like, I get it, and I don't get me wrong. If someone offers me some fresh cookies or freshly baked cake, I'm there.
Yep.
What diet? I'm like, what? Diabetes? What? I'll be going into the. So, but yeah, I'm like, yeah, and so I didn't fit that role, and so I think that's something that I've had to come to terms with. And as an older woman, you know, your body changes. You're no longer able to produce children, so that role's taken away from you, whether you like it or not. And a lot of women, younger women will go, oh, you know, you don't know how lucky you are. But I think it's something at a deep psychological level that a lot of people are not really prepared for. And so, you know, with arts therapy, it's so simple to do and anyone can do it at home. And that's why I wrote those books. You know, I actually have 10 books, I think 9. Anyway, I've lost count. But I wanted people to try it at home. Not everyone can afford a therapist. Not everyone might even think it's a good idea. You know, and I have a small art class that I run, and they teach me, you know, like I can create activities until, you know, until the cows come home. Was a funny, I don't know, you know that saying. But they, I'll often try things with them, and I watch them and I learn from them. And that's really interesting process too. So yeah, art therapy, anyone can do art therapy. And that's why the books, and I have the app, which is available on from Apple and Google. And it's free to download. It doesn't have any ads. So it's one of those things that I think, well, you know, it's just opening up people to these tools that we just mentioned. Yeah. And what they can use. Yeah.
Well, doing art is so meditative. I've got a bunch of these things that I'll just pull one up, but I did these. I wanted to do one of those big posts with the big direction signs of all over
I love that.
Yeah. And but it was amazing when I was doing this project. I would just turn on some music and just paint. And you're not thinking about the stuff that's happening, like the horrible stuff that's happening globally or in your life even, right? You're just pouring your soul into that brush and paint. I love it.
Yeah. When you're in that flow, you are totally in a meditative state. You're in
Yes.
like one of the, I forget it, which one it was, the alpha, data, or theta states, but you do, when you get into that flow. And my husband plays guitar, and I noticed that, like, when he's really into it, he's like zoned, I don't want to say zoned out, but maybe just tuned in, you know, just in this meditative state that he's just like, you know, if you come up to him, he's like, oh God, you know, but you know, I like barely tap on the shoulder and then, you know, startle the man. But yeah, no, you totally get into that flow, and you are, that's a form of meditation for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And it's it's sort of a distraction in some ways. But like you say, if you're overwhelmed with, you know, watching the news and you perhaps you've got lots of personal issues, sometimes being able to concentrate and focus and use colors or sculpture or music helps. It gives your mind space to process, to relax. You can't make decisions when you're upset and stressed and angry. But when you calm, when you bring yourself down, and you know, art therapy is not about producing a wonderful picture to hang on the wall. It's just about the process. And you know, my art journal kind of looks a bit scrappy. There's you know, I was dealing with something and I was trying just using colors and just lines on the paper, and I was just processing what had happened. And you know, you might look at it and think, oh, that's a bit of rubbish, you know. But it served its purpose and its role, and it's there every time I see it. I remind myself of that space I was in and how I moved out of that space, just simply by making some marks, on paper.
That's what I was going to ask you. If you have people that say, well, but I'm not an artist and I've never been good at art. And I think it's like that limiting belief that people carry. Like when you're a kid, when you're children and you're doing art, you're so excited about it, right?
Yes.
And at some turn in the road, we have this idea that we're not good at it. And so do you have people that say that to you, that they couldn't do that because of that limiting belief?
Almost on a weekly basis. Yeah. The little group I run, we have a gentleman comes in and he has a support worker come in with him, and one of the other participants invited her to join in, and she just went, oh, I'm no good at art. And everybody in the room laughed because we've all heard it, we've all said it, and except for me. but we've all heard it and we've all said it. And she was like, "What are you laughing at?" And I just stepped back, I just let these participants, tell her.
Mhm.
But yeah, unfortunately, you don't need to explain art therapy to a 3-year-old. They kind of get it. They know, don't they? They just go, just
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
and any child psychologist will tell you if your little one is drawing red jagged lines on the wall, they're not happy.
Yeah.
They're just
Mm.
but the gentleman in this gentleman in particular was just working away. And sometimes you kind of look at somebody and you think, why do they come to this class? They're
Mm.
not the arty type. They're not, they're not vibrant and full of life. They're
Mhm.
kind of, sort of withdrawn in and stressed and all the rest of it. And I said, "Oh, how are you going?" And he said, "Oh, I just really love this." He said, "I haven't done this since I was at junior school or primary school."
Mm.
And then he said, you know, when we get to high school, we're not allowed to do this anymore. Unless you're the arty type who shows up
Yes.
at class. He said, "No, I was forced into maths and English." And it's a
Mm.
shame because,
Yes.
to fuel your creativity, all great scientists are
Mhm.
creative.
Mhm.
All great, English teachers are creative.
Mhm.
You need creativity to solve problems in the world.
Yes.
And when we withdraw art from, and that joy of experimenting, I don't mean structured classes where you sit and you paint a bowl of fruit or something like that. Just the
Right.
joy of, like one of the ladies I work with talks about, "Oh, I remember doing this at kinder." And she says it quite a lot, which is quite interesting. And like last week, we were weaving with paper. When you kind of get the, yeah. And I
Yeah.
said that, yeah, and I said it's about the pattern and the order. And I said, we take one flimsy strip of paper and it's relatively, it doesn't stand up on its own and it's weak, and I tore it up into pieces. And I said, but if we add that to another and to another and to another, we build something that's quite strong. And I passed around this example that I've made. And I said, this is what community is like, isn't it?
Mm.
On our own, we're a little bit, we might be a bit intimidated or frightened or nervous or anxious. But when we join forces, we become much stronger, a much stronger
Mhm.
unit. And so, yeah, it's interesting to people's responses. There's lots of different things. People will tell you art therapy is just for kids. They'll tell you that, oh, like I hated art class, which is fair enough. There's all sorts of things that people think it's really expensive to do. And, one of the activities I teach just involves a pen and a piece of paper, which you can do
Mm.
on the back of an envelope or a bit of junk mail.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Love that.
Mhm.
Debbie, I see you brewing with a question.
No, I was just thinking how she was saying that.
Yeah.
Susan, how you were saying, like, once we get to high school, certain people don't
Mm.
get to do art anymore. And I'm just, thinking back, of course, I was an art student in high school, but also bringing that back and then bringing mindfulness into education. I mean,
Yes.
that would be such a, I mean, we've been practicing mindfulness. Meditation has been for over 6,000 years. And just bringing something, without the religious aspect, or, you can't, it's just a mindful practice. We don't need to put a label of religion or even spirituality on it. For kids in high school or even starting as early as grade school. I mean, that is something that is extremely helpful in regulating your emotions and, you
Oh,
know,
absolutely. Yeah,
yeah.
you're spot on. It's I like I said, I was studying mindfulness, and then I studied art therapy, and I can't separate the two. I don't, because part of the release, I guess, is just being with the materials, so that when you're painting, just enjoying the movement of the brush on the canvas and the smell. I mean, I'm just a paint junkie. I just
I love
this.
that though, because that sticks with you, like whether it's acrylic or whether it's oils, if you're painting in oils, all those different media have a certain scent to them.
They do. That's exactly right. And
Mhm.
there's, like for people who perhaps who are anxious and feel like their life is out of control, I might use material like a gel pen, which give you a beautiful finish, but you have to use them very slowly and very carefully. So along with the mindfulness and deep breathing, it's calming. But on the other hand, somebody who's depressed or who needs to be lifted out of their mood, the freeing activity of painting with golds and yellows can really inspire you and changes your mindset. And like I said, it's very easy to do. I always think it's a little bit like an iceberg. Up the top, you might be painting just above the surface and doing stuff, but underneath there's a lot happening. A lot happening. Yeah.
Well, and kind of tagging on what Debbie and you were saying, like you think about the classes that we go to through in school, you have your basic maths, you have your English, but it's the life skills that I think
Yes.
a lot of our educational institutions are lacking. I think we lost Debbie.
Oh no. Come back, Debbie.
I'm glad I'm still here and you're still here, but I'm sure she'll log back in.
She
But
will.
but yeah, I look at, the general, she lost connection. Okay.
Yeah.
The general like, I don't know, budgeting and those types of skills, but then you add in the skill of meditation and how to calm the stress response, because when they get out of high school, they're going to have all the stressors coming at them, right? And we get into this constant state of stress, and then that causes more illness. So I think that if they incorporated more of the arts in the capacity like what you're saying, to learn, and get those tools in the toolbox of what can I do if I get stressed out.
This is it, exactly right. And we need those skills. We need them more and more and more.
Yeah.
Children don't play outside and release tension like they used to.
Yeah.
We don't do it. We don't do it enough.
Yeah.
So it's, exactly right. And just learning, like when I do classes for preteens, just teaching them to breathe. And you
Yeah.
can change the physical makeup of your brain by just with deep breathing exercises, which is so
Yes.
exciting. I was in a situation a few months ago, and an older lady, well, we're about the same age, said to me, how come you didn't lose your temper and get really cross and really angry?
Mm.
And I said, because at some point during this event, I was able to mentally, I stepped back and I did a big picture scan. And I thought, do you know what? At the end of the day, none of this is going to really matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in this, and then because I remained calm, things began to settle a little bit. It was just between two other people that I was working with. And it was, and I think back and I think that's because of the meditating I've done, because of the mindfulness and that ability I have changed the physical chemical makeup of my brain for the better, I hope.
Yeah.
And and it's really, really powerful. And it should be, along with the maths and science and the English, it should be compulsory, at least, I think, in schools. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And learning, because, it's now, I'm a full-time social worker as well. So I started that, oh gosh. Well, I've been working at the current place that I'm at for 12 years now. And I started teaching some classes to the clientele that I was meeting with, and on, stress management. And we incorporated some art, we incorporated deep breathing, all of those things.
Brilliant.
But, I, we're just learning this stuff, as later adults. And boy, could that have really come in handy, during those stressors when the kids were little and screaming and because they're
exactly right.
frustrated or whatever, to be able
Yeah.
to keep ourselves calm in those situations. So
Yeah.
welcome back, Debbie.
Hi, Debbie.
Hi guys, would we even be Laugh Livings and Turbulence if we didn't have a technical issue?
Absolutely.
It just started saying program not responding. You know how you get that box and I'm like, and it's spinning. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? But
Yeah.
here we are, I'm
Yeah.
back. Alrighty. Anyway,
I was telling
yeah.
Debbie earlier that that I was on a meeting this morning and our whole like internet system it crashed.
Mhm.
Like there was an area wide thing. And my coworkers are like, "And you got your thing tonight? Like I hope it's back up and running."
They're like, me too.
I crossed my fingers. Yeah. Yeah, I love your whole mission, Susan.
Mhm.
And the fact that you're giving a space for people to be creative and to learn these tools of mindfulness that
Mhm.
can help to calm their nervous systems. Because again, all that stress creates illness. It can create illness in your
Absolutely.
body.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah, it does. It manifests
absolutely.
into all kind of yucky things, whether
Mhm.
it's rashes or
Mhm.
cancer,
Yeah.
everything on the spectrum. Yeah. And I was learning this 10, 15 years ago from a lady who was studying something called metamedicine, which you don't
Mhm.
hear a lot about now. And people thought she was, they used to kind of just brush her off and go, yeah, whatever. And
Mhm.
now I think now we've got scientists coming out saying, oh, well, if you do your breath work, this happens and this happens. And I'm like, oh, that poor lady. She's since passed away, which is, really sad.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But she was onto something.
Yeah,
And I
well,
Mhm.
used
for
to
sure.
listen. Yeah, yeah. I used to listen, and I wasn't that much. She used to do EFT, the tapping.
Yes,
Oh yeah.
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
And that was new, like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm like, and I was like, you want me to do what with what? It was like,
Mhm.
I'm just going, oh, okay. Just wondering, looking at my watch, wondering what was going to cook for dinner. And I'm like,
That's supposed to work phenomenally. There's a very good documentary on, I think it's like Amazon Prime or one of those. It's called Heal with Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Okay.
And he talks about all of that. Dr. Joe Dispenza has some great books, and he talks about the the connection of the mind to the body and how we make ourselves sick,
Mhm.
and how
yes,
we
we do.
and how we have the ability to also help heal. With
Yeah,
resolving past traumas. And they did a lot of the EFT tapping and some spirituality practices, meditation, Ho'oponopono, the
yeah,
Hawaiian practice. But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
this is, I feel like so late in the game with,
Mhm.
stress makes you sick. Of course it does. You know,
Yeah.
Even on a scientific level, it raises, insulin, it, raises your blood pressure. It does all these other physical things to you. Of course it does. Cortisol.
Mhm.
Yeah,
But yeah.
absolutely, yeah. And like I went on because she said I need someone to practice with. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, anything a go. And like I said, I didn't believe it. I wasn't connected in at all. I was in quite a difficult space, but it revolutionized my mindset. But it was very subtle.
Mhm.
It's not like you wake up the next morning, you go, oh, hang on, I'm a whole new different person.
Wow.
I had to go back months and go, do you know what? It is actually working.
Wow.
It was really, really powerful. And I think that sort of set me on everything's a journey and a process. So
Yeah.
this is where I am today, where, I'm learning that, being imperfect, sorry, there I go. Being imperfect is okay. She
Mm.
says, stumbling over my words. And that it's so important that we all learn to show up and shine with our
Yes.
imperfection and
I
and
love
and
that.
support each other. For me, it's I just take things and I use them and adopt. But I really want all of us to be able to get to this point where we feel so empowered and so in love with ourselves,
Yeah.
Mhm.
in that sort of sense that, that we are imperfect and that's okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
For sure. Yep.
So Susan, if you were to, because we encourage any woman to watch our podcast, um,
Mhm.
because they will be where we're at some point in their lives if they're younger.
They'll
Um,
get here.
yeah, they'll
That's
get you
right.
got you ladies, you will get here. It's
Yeah.
We
fabulous.
will.
Except just ignore some of that stuff that Susan said about the body changes and stuff, and you'll be fine. But what would you what advice would you give to somebody younger or even your younger self, the younger Susan?
I would tell them to draw everything and anything they need to empower themselves, to celebrate their uniqueness.
Mm.
And I worked with I used to work in the disability sector, Gina, so and social working sort of stuff, and I worked with a whole lot of Gen Zs, and they are amazing. They are just these young women that, did their job, did it professionally, authentically, and just, and were real and so kind and compassionate. And but they still get overwhelmed with, this, this obsession with social media and being perfect
Sure.
and all the rest of it. And, I'd like to take that away and say to them, you just that celebration of being imperfect. Life is
Mhm.
not perfect. Life is hard and
Yeah.
tough and messy. And that's okay. But you'll get through it, won't you?
Yeah.
You'll shine
Yeah.
through because of your, like, in a sense, because of your imperfections, because you're striving to do better. And, we have all these tools, whether it's art therapy and mindfulness and, EFT and or meditation and deep breathing and prayer.
Mhm.
We have all these things and you need to embrace them. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I
my
love
advice.
that. I love that. Yeah, so true. And really the social media, the media itself,
Mhm.
the messages that that feeds to our young minds as we're growing up, the
Yeah.
magazines, the, you know, it's all focused on the perfect,
Yes.
the perfect woman, the perfect
And,
girl,
and
what they look like as a
right.
perfect.
And this generation is more overloaded with it than we were, Gina
I think
or
so.
Susan, when we were growing up. We didn't have that constant in your face feeding, that scrolling
All the time.
where it was always in your face. I mean, yeah, we have magazines and TV, but we had downtime. We didn't have a screen in our face 24 hours, almost, how many, you fall asleep with that thing in your hand.
Yeah.
So I think it's even harder for this generation,
Mhm.
and
I
getting
do. I
away
agree.
from that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there is a turn away from it. There's comedians and influencers who are, are sort of celebrating their imperfections. But there's also, but it's just so big, isn't it? And it's so
Mhm.
influential. And
Mhm.
yeah, I think that would be my advice is,
Yeah, I
use
love
it.
Yeah.
You like I love social media. I use it for
Mhm.
connect with people obviously overseas and
Sure.
my family
Yeah.
in the UK, in South Africa, and I use it for all different things and I research and, learn all sorts of interesting new things. Um, but I can step back and, you know, but it's very hard when it's all consuming. But yeah,
Yeah.
Mhm. And becomes an addiction
you
for
should do
some,
art therapy instead. That's what
Yeah, right. There you go. Pick up your
Exactly.
what Susan's saying is pick up your paintbrush.
That's right. Take back those crayons from your little brothers and sisters. Yep.
Love that. Oh gosh. Well, Susan, did you have any other questions, Debbie?
No, no, she was,
No.
no,
Yeah.
no, it was wonderful. Like, I love her, like you said, her mission, and I love the idea. And I can't wait to check out the workbooks on Amazon
Yeah.
and then keep us updated. You said you have an app. You have that out now?
Yep. It's a new
Okay,
baby. One of the most
awesome.
difficult things I've ever given birth to. So, but yeah, it's available. It's called the Art Therapy app. So my logo
Okay,
is a colored bird taking off. So it's available on Apple and Amazon.
awesome.
Yeah, and if people want to connect, I have a really groovy newsletter called Soulful Spark, and you can sign up on my website, and I have a really nice guide about sort of how art therapy and mindfulness can just spark your soul
Yeah.
and give you back that energy and power you need for your,
Yes, yes.
yeah, journey. Yeah.
Excellent.
Definitely. Yeah, and so we'll definitely put your links
Mm-hmm.
on the
Thank you.
post.
Thank you.
We
So
will.
so all you listeners, definitely check out Susan's website and the app. That sounds just amazing. I cannot wait to look into
So
that.
fun.
And Susan, did you say you're doing classes now too, or something? You're starting.
I do, yeah, I do run classes and online. I'm looking into developing online courses. I'm actually halfway
Yeah,
through them. So
yeah.
again, just trying to provide a lot more in-depth and
Mhm.
just connecting to people who, yeah, I don't know, maybe they don't want to buy a book or come and chat to me something else. So just trying to
Yeah.
reach
Yeah.
as many people as I can. Yeah.
Wonderful
Yeah.
idea. Super
Yeah.
excited.
Thank
So
you.
once you get all set with those online courses, will that be posted on your website as well for
Yeah,
folks who want to
absolutely.
see?
And
Oh,
I'm those people signed up to my newsletter, they
Mhm.
actually got access to the premium content to my
great.
app because they signed up to my newsletter. So the same will go with the online courses. Yeah,
That's excellent.
they'll get premium access or discounts or something, yeah.
Yeah,
So
Wonderful.
another good
Yeah.
reason to sign up. Yeah.
perfect. All right.
All right, Susan.
Well, thank you so much, Susan. We really
Yeah.
appreciate you being on our laugh lines and turbulence and getting a few little giggles in there too. And
Mhm.
aging is funny.
That's,
There are funny
It is.
things.
yeah, you got to find the humor in it.
We
But
do.
it's so important, ladies, to take care of yourselves. And
Yeah.
what Susan just talked about today is a real simple thing. It doesn't involve
Mhm.
tons and tons of dollars. Just pick up a
Yep.
coloring book and some crayons and just color away. We have
Yeah, doodle away. She, whatever medium, she said,
yeah,
crayons, paint,
yeah.
music, however it is.
Hmm.
Fancy little fancy gel pens, anything you want.
That's right. All right. Well, thank you
Very
so
good.
much, Susan. We appreciate you being on our show, and we'll send out the information to you once we're done, once it streams across to us. So
Yes.
I'm just,
Thank you so much for having me. It was lovely to meet you both in person.
eh,
Oh,
same.
and you too, Susan. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate that.